shipping Bitcoin into the hole.
Good morning. It's Monday. This is the show where you get a handle on exactly where we're going, not only over the next week, but hopefully over the next year, 3 years, 5 years as well. This one is an interesting one because we're seeing crazy stuff happen out there in the world. We're seeing crazy stuff happening on chain with Bitcoin, charts, TradFi, FOMO, 4060 dead, tokenization of everything. Everything is kind of coming together real fast, and I'm not sure the world is ready. And that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today. And then on top of all that, if it could get even nuttier, we got AI too kicking us in the teeth. Who's ready? Marty, you ready?
What an intro, James.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I stay up all night thinking about this intro. It's exciting. So, Mando, what do you think of the world we're heading into? And you know the news better than anybody from your newsletter, which I look at too. I mean, crazy, huh?
Yeah, what's been very interesting is what you just said. It feels as though crypto stocks have seen big gains with some of these treasury companies, and maybe this merge of TradFi and crypto is happening pretty quick at the moment, with all these crypto exchanges starting to look more like brokerage exchanges, and more of these brokerage exchanges starting to look more like crypto exchanges. So there's that big move, but broader tech is really having a moment again. Like I think it's the fastest reversal to all-time high ever.
Yeah.
And now that we've hit all-time high, you're starting to see kind of the subsectors, like the more risky bits of the market, are really starting to kick off. Like big moves in robotics, AI, IoT, all these like smaller things are all having like this big resurgence in interest. Crypto feels like, Bitcoin's still close to all-time high, but I do think it's becoming slightly more competitive out there. I do think part of it is that people are starting to focus on that more than maybe altcoins or some of these other stories, and it's a competitive world for like the attention of pure degens.
It's so funny you mentioned that, because I'm writing a little piece later on how I believe the crypto bros, and I'll show you a chart on this too, the crypto long-term holders are pivoting because they're not going to get their 10x, 100x, 1000x. And now they're looking to unload some of their bags and move into this big narrative called AI as well, which is what I've been talking about for years as well. So it's all beginning to happen. CTO, how are you this morning before we get into the agenda?
I am doing fantastic. I think we're at a super interesting point of the market. We'll talk about it later. And of course, the convergence of all these technologies, stock market reversal, TradFi coming in. Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing.
And you saw the Mando mentioned laggards. I call them laggards. Everybody's looking for alpha now in these far-flung corners like Salesforce.com and Micron and all these different plays as well. They are getting the heat too because they are considered adjacent to AI as well. So crazy stuff. And Marty, how are you this week? You got your tea?
I'm great. It's very early for me, so I'm rubbing my eyes. And this will be my last show. I'll be in Australia for the rest of the month of, I think, 6 weeks. So it'll be my evening. But glad to be here. All-time highs across the board. I think everyone nobody saw it coming. Stocks hit all-time highs, guys. All this doom and gloom talk. Stock market is on fire. We've got global liquidity hitting a new high. If you look at the chart right now, global liquidity lagged 77 weeks. Tells us Bitcoin's going to roughly 144,000 next. It's gone up 125. So that's pretty optimistic. I feel great. I think everything is good. Bitcoin obviously is causing a stir. The treasury companies are brewing. I think there'll be winners and losers. Don't get too attached to them. I think it's like meme coins. It's a cycle. In the beginning, they'll pump and everyone will jump on everything. And, there'll be winners and losers. Just make sure you manage your risk. And remember, you can always buy the underlying asset. So
exactly. And this is where winner takes most and first mover advantage is so important.
And Saylor buys a shit ton of new Bitcoin. Did you see that?
I did again.
5,000 Bitcoin for $500 million.
Yeah, we're going to get into that. We're going to talk this one. The story today is about the new frontiers and convergence and how everything is really coming together way faster than expected. The agenda is long and detailed, but we'll talk about Bitcoin and macro and how they dovetail together. We will touch on MicroStrategy. We will talk about peak Hodl. We have some new on-chain charts. We'll look at some of CTO's charts as well. And then we'll talk about Altseason. I believe, now I'll say this right now, and I want you all to challenge me. I believe the second half is really going to kick off for alts. Those who have been patient will be rewarded. And when Zeus, a lot of people want to hear about Zeus, Marty. So update us there. And then global signals, what's going on in the market, what's going on in China, crazy stuff, a little bit on AI, and then a quick fire round we're going to add at the very end too. But the very first story, this is, I call this Dunsies. Only 5% left to mine for Bitcoin over the next 120 years. When you think about the hardness that represents, I mean, it melts my mind. A lot of people look at it as just a table with numbers, but I mean, it's crazy with the size of money in the world about to approach $2 quadrillion in assets. Bitcoin is still very small, and it's going to be very hard to shake some of that Bitcoin from cold, dead hands that are out there. And I believe 5 million Bitcoin are lost. So, Mando, when you look at this, only 5% left to mine over the next 120 years, and you got players like BlackRock and MicroStrategy who've bought up technically the next 7 years of supply over the last 12 months. How do you wrap your head around that?
Yeah, I mean, when you start mapping this out to 2048, 2044, that's the time. It's crazy to look at those inflation figures, right? Like, that is really going to have an effect. That is going to have a huge, huge effect as money comes in. I mean, this is just the story about Bitcoin. I think there's a move towards hard assets at the moment, and I don't know what it would be like. I'd love to see one of these for like gold, like even projections about gold supply over the next like 20 years, because I'm sure there are gold mines or deposits which haven't fully been utilized yet, and obviously there's been various headlines about that in various different countries. But this kind of makes it obvious that it's going to be the hardest asset over the next 20 years, doesn't it?
Yep, really, it's mouth-watering and mind-blowing all at the same time. Marty, what do you make of these numbers and hardness?
Yeah, but I mean, Bitcoin's hardness is undeniable. I think we're all early. I always say that to people. We have a deep understanding of the asset class and the model and mining, but I think people are starting to realize it outside of our crypto circle. And it's the same as us. Once you learn the dynamics and the math, you realize there is a massive math problem, right? We have a math problem. Everybody's buying Bitcoin, but there is not that much Bitcoin people want to sell. So either price go up or, it's got to go up. When is the question? And obviously it also begs the question, is there suppression of the price? And, is there a bigger plan to keep the price down during accumulation? And, those narratives are popping up. But yes, absolutely. I think every treasury strategies all around the world are buying, which is the first phase. The second phase is large, Mag 7 type companies are going to start buying. Then you'll see the sovereigns buy. I think we're in for supply shock. It's all setting up for that August, November, September time period, I believe, where we'll see our massive markup. This is accumulation phase. I was just very happy to buy some more Bitcoin under 100, guys. I hope you were there when we dipped. I think that the mining issue is becoming a bigger issue than people realize. Those in the know understand. Those who are not in the know don't care. But the price makes the narrative, and the price is just about to rise.
Exactly. And then the CTO, this is it kind of dovetails into what Marty and Mando said too. But we're now at a new record peak Hodl in long-term holder in profit. So we have 16 million Bitcoin held by long-term holders, and pretty much all of it's in profit right now, which is stunning to see. This is from James Check on Chain. And this has never happened before. Now, part of the reason I believe we have so many long-term holders in profit is because the ETFs and MicroStrategy are sucking so much from the system and locking it away. Much of it will never meet the market again. But what do you make of all of this? And do you have a chart to support what we're talking about here?
Absolutely. I have a chart to support, but if we're looking at this picture first, I feel that one of the best advice I got many years ago was to try to figure out what are the buyers doing and why, and what are the sellers doing and why. So who are the sellers? Who is selling and who is buying? And like you said, some of the new buyers here, they're probably not selling for a long time, like the MicroStrategy, some of these ETFs. And that will change things because, as we saw on the previous slide, there will be very little new supply coming in. I think the typical gold inflation figure is about 3%, 3 to 5%, meaning that the supply increases by about 3% as we mine new gold. And that is more than Bitcoin already today. And the difference will be bigger and bigger. So the only Bitcoin available to buy is what someone else is selling. And then if we can figure out who is selling and why are they selling. And I think today there are two categories. One is those who bought early and taking some profit. Maybe they bought Bitcoin $1,000 and they always had the idea, if it goes to 100,000, I'm going to sell some and build a swimming pool or something like that. They're taking profit, that's why they are selling. Then for sure that's another category, trying to manipulate the price. So try to push the price down, scare everyone, reaccumulate, ride it up again, and try to repeat this cycle. So that's like a professional architecting of the price, which Wyckoff, that Marty talked about many times, figured out, almost 100 years ago. That kind of tactic tends to work. You scare people to drive the price down, you rebuy, and then you drive it up. Everyone is excited, they buy back, then you drive it down again, and so on. And for sure, we're seeing elements of that as well. But I think that as price continues up here, we are definitely getting more long-term holders into the picture. And that is fantastic to see. So if we go to the price chart of today, little bit of education. This pattern that we are seeing now, that we went in a big move up, and then we have this downward sloping channel looking thing. That's a flag. And after a big move up, that's a bull flag. So what we're seeing now is a textbook chart pattern of a consolidation bull flag, which favors an upside breakout. So confirmation will be that we break out of this flag. And if we get the breakout on the upside, that will then, with some probability, propel us much higher up here. So this is a bullish pattern. I know that some people are concerned here now, oh no, price is backing up, lower lows, lower highs. No, this is a bull flag. So this is a very promising situation. And I think together with what has happened in stocks, actually this surprised me. I didn't think we would get that fast recovery, that big, and stocks moving into all-time high suddenly, I think will help Bitcoin price. We are still a little bit in a speculative era, and I think that move in stocks will really help Bitcoin here over the coming period. So I didn't mention, but the trend never turned. The trend is still up. So this is looking, from a pure technical analysis perspective, this is looking fantastic.
Yeah, I even saw Mando peering into the bull flag, and he was like, "Ooh, I like the look of that." True, Mando?
Yeah, I mean, I looked at it and thought, maybe it could be a lower low, lower high. But it's interesting to hear what you're saying. That actually, just the way it's consolidating there looks like more like a bull flag if it was then to push on. I kind of agree with you.
And what's interesting too, I look a lot at seasonality, and June is normally the suckiest month for Bitcoin historically, and we were positive. We're not closed yet. We have 9 hours to go, and we'll talk a bit about the importance of this monthly close. But it looks like it's going to be pretty positive, despite some volatility that's out there right now. We're north of $107,000. We were at 108.8 this morning. And we came back down a little bit, but things are looking pretty good out here. So let's get back to, thank you for that, CTO, and thank you for the bull flag. Actually, on the bull flag, Marty, how does that weave into your Wyckoff?
The Wyckoff calls for a bull flag from here, probably till the beginning or the middle of July. So the Wyckoff says there'll be opportunities to scare people out, which is what the lower lows are. The lower highs are to convince people that that's the top. It's all planned. Remember, this is all just planned, just like politics. The most important thing, though, is that lagged money supply. I mean, I'm a big believer on money supply. Bitcoin follows money supply. Money supply, it starts with gold. We saw gold take off early. Then we see money supply. And money supply is just about to go parabolic. What that means is all nations will turn to quantitative easing and lower rates to pay their sovereign debt. We all know in the US it's happening right now. The big, beautiful bill is literally in the Senate right now. They were voting all weekend to get it through. That involves very bullish things, by the way. No tax on Bitcoin under $600, things like that. But lowering of the interest rates looking like it's going to start in October. We saw today the Swiss and the French banks come out and say they think the US will do 5 cuts starting in October. So rate cuts will start for the US to refinance their debt, and then banks will be allowed to hold more short-term treasuries, as well as the bank facility that the Fed created to buy securities will be unloaded, and all of that, those treasuries will go on the market. So I think we're looking at US banks. There's top 5 banks, obviously the big 5 are going to be buying treasuries, obviously to support stablecoin. But at the end of the day, money supply is going up all around the world, and Bitcoin will follow that next. So it goes gold, money supply, Bitcoin, and then a financial cycle, stocks, etc. So we're just on the dawn of the Wyckoff, the bullish flag that CTO has been talking about, and money supply. And I had my estimates at around a stop at 125. I believe we go even higher with this money supply, specifically Taiwan. I've been watching that very closely, as has Zero Hedge now. Taiwan has been printing money like crazy, and we're not sure why. It might have something to do with the Chinese conflict. But there we go. Bitcoin follows money supply. You can add it to your chart. There's a couple of good ones, but add Bitcoin daily or weekly with money supply, lag it between 70 and 80 days, and you'll see clearly what's happening. That's my theory. We're just about to go up a lot.
I like 112-day lag. This is also big news, and we're seeing MicroStrategy up nearly 3% as Bitcoin's a little bit down. A lot of chatter out there that MicroStrategy will be added to the S&P 500. Currently, I think based on its market cap, it ranks about number 130 or so. So it should have been in there a long time ago. But the S&P 500 runs at the speed of molasses, and they take a long time to wrap their heads around, what is this MicroStrategy company? Is it even legitimate? But they do need to be profitable. If Bitcoin does close above 95K in the next 9 hours, there is a higher probability that they could get added. Some people believe the probability is 92 to 95%. And that would be crazy. That brings in incredible perpetual bid for MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy just sold some shares last week. They just bought another 5,000 Bitcoin. I mean, it's a bonkers infinite money glitch. But the cool thing about this for us is after Coinbase being added to the S&P 500, if we get this now too, then things could really kick off in terms of, blessing. But then the bigger news, which is absolutely mind-blowing, I'm going to spend a second on this. This was flying around over the weekend. The 60-40 portfolio is well and truly dead. Man, this one's for you. This is a top RIA. He is consistently the best on Barron's list, and says if you are aggressive and aggressively investing, you need to be 40% allocated to crypto. All right. 60-40 portfolio is dead. That means bonds are dead. And now the top advisors are ringing the bell. Get crypto, get exposure. And this is arguably the most powerful full-throated endorsement of crypto to the TradFi world since Larry Fink gave Bitcoin its blessing. This blew me away and kept me awake all last night. Mando, your thoughts?
Yeah, so this made a lot of waves in like the wealth management, money management circles, because this investor, Edelman is his name, is very well known as like a stock picker, a fund picker. So to be saying that 60-40, I mean 60-40, a lot of people have been saying it's dead for a long time in terms of returns. And he's basically saying you just can't ignore crypto here. Like, it's been outperforming for so long, you can't ignore it. If you drill down into what he's interested in, obviously it's Bitcoin, it's ETH, I think he recommends buying maybe it's the Bitwise top 10, I think it is, like just buying the top 10 as an allocation. But yeah, this is the sort of endorsement that can swing massive wealth managers, money managers into having a much higher allocation than they currently have. Remember, BlackRock has been saying, and Fidelity have been saying, like in the low percentages. To come out and say 10 to 40%, I think is a big change.
Yep. And remember, there are trillions on the line. We're talking 40, 50 trillion dollars. And a huge chunk of that 40 to 50 trillion dollars, maybe 20, 30, 40% is already allocated to bonds. When they read this now, how are they going to find a home for that big chunk of cash coming our way? And I've been debating myself with this for years, could this bring about a perpetual bull market if you get this constant allocation from what was a 60-40 portfolio? Remember, people are putting 8, 10, 14% of their paychecks every week into these types of vehicles. How do you rationalize that? Anybody?
Yeah, I mean, I've thought a lot about with the bond thing. I mean, this strategy, 60-40 strategy in the past, it made a lot of sense. You have some exposure to stocks, but you also have a portion which is absolutely, totally safe. That was what the bonds were. You get some return, and you're not going to lose it. 10 years later, 20 years later, 30 years later, it's going to be there. So if stocks dip, you have some money to buy with it and so on. It made a lot of sense. I don't think bonds are that anymore. I don't think a 30-year government bond in any country is 100% sure to pay out. We could get populist politicians who drive their economy down in the toilet during the next coming decades. Perhaps we get hyperinflation. Perhaps they will say that actually those bonds we're not going to honor. We're going to honor those ones, but not those ones. I feel that can realistically happen. It's not a 0% risk anymore, as it perhaps was in the past. And I think a lot of people are feeling the same. So now Bitcoin is then becoming two things. One is like a speculative asset. It behaves as a tech stock, basically. When tech stocks go up, Bitcoin goes up. But Bitcoin can also realistically now become like a hedge against that scenario where fiat fails and it's gold and Bitcoin that pick up some of the bond money. And I think we've seen it in the price of both gold and Bitcoin already. And that trend could continue. I don't know, Mando, what do you feel if US, for example, is saving the situation, or if it's gotten worse? What's like the confidence in the market that they won't drive the economy haywire? It felt like they all tried to fix it a little bit. Like a couple of months ago, it felt like they will actually do some things to get the budget under control. And then in the end, like, guys, we also have to get reelected. So, let's not go too far.
Yeah, I mean, this happens with all politicians everywhere. But I think you hit the nail on the head in that suddenly there's this element of credit risk, essentially, to nations, which never really was there before. And this is also a time where people, this is a popular view at the moment because bonds have been a terrible investment for the last few years, right? Bond yields have kept on going higher, prices have kept on going lower. There's pockets of leverage everywhere, and during this period, everyone's debt to GDP is blasted through 100%, and it's a very popular view. I wouldn't want to really own a 30-year bond in many countries. That is like a very astute point. Whereas I would have no qualms owning gold for 30 years or Bitcoin for 30 years. So I think that has been a big shift in the bond market. We may see persistently higher rates because of it, because people are now start to price in higher debt to GDPs, and these sort of money managers are starting to pick up on it. Maybe they're a little bit late, but they're starting to pick up on it.
Yeah, and proof, by the way, the dollar, the Dixie, lost 10% in just the first 6 months of this year. That is the worst loss for the dollar index in 40 years, everybody. This is what we refer to as the melting ice cube. And this is the cleanest shirt in the laundry. And it's garbage. And that's why everybody is shying away from these long-term yields. It's just murder out there. Absolutely murder. So, Marty, what does this chart tell you from bar chart?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things. I think the big issue we have in our community of, large traders, that exit into, when do you exit? The whole notion of exiting assets or risk on investments implies you exit to the dollar. Well, now exiting to the dollar is the worst trade you can make. You're literally exiting into a currency that's losing purchasing power daily, faster than anything in history. I mean, if you look at a chart from the moment they had Bretton Woods, and especially when they got off the gold standard to now, the dollar has been losing purchasing power like a meme coin. And that's not stopping, it's accelerating. So exiting stock is no longer a concept. You don't exit crypto to dollars. You don't exit like we used to think. You need something else to exit to. And I believe people are exiting to Bitcoin right now. If you look at gold, Bitcoin, people are trading gold to Bitcoin. They're not trading to cash. Then you got to look at things like, the 100-year cycle. The fact that we're just dawning on potentially a sovereign debt collapse. And there's only two ways for the countries of the world to get out of $330 trillion of debt. And that is either war or austerity measures, right? They need to all come together, the leaders of the world, and agree to eliminate the debt between each other, because they all lend to each other, right? It's not just the US lending to China. China then lends to Japan and to the third world and back to America, private individuals, and they lend back to Japan. It's a big mess. So there needs to be a consolidation of debt. To do that, interest rates need to be low. Like I said, it needs to either be a war or austerity measures. And austerity measures begin with trade deals. So ring any bells? Trump is trying to do that. He's trying to renegotiate trade, reduce the debt via trade negotiation, which will involve massive depreciation. So there's a lot of wheels in motion right now. But the big number one thing is in October last year, Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, declared Bitcoin to be the store of value. In other words, this is where the safety is. And from then on, from the approval of that ETF, which was accelerated, all the way now to where the accounting rules changed, the FASB rules changed. We've got the strategic Bitcoin, we've got the Genius Act. The big one coming, the market structure bill. This is where they will declare crypto a commodity and they will declare what a crypto security is, and Clarity Act. Once we get these regulations, I believe we will see the beginning of this Trump technique to try and eliminate debt. And Bitcoin will go to the moon. It's about debt into Bitcoin right now. Issuing stock, finding different ways to be clever about raising debt, putting it into hard assets, physical gold and Bitcoin. And that's just the way it's been since October last year. Nothing stopped. In fact, it's accelerating at a rapid pace. Now, the price is another thing. Remember, separate the technology from the price. The price is financial people, exchanges, manipulators, speculators. The software is engineers, coders, networking, physical layers. Totally different, two closed loops. And on the price side, there are a lot of other kinds of games that they play. And I believe there's a lot of suppression. We know Caroline Ellison on the stand testified to suppressing Sam Bankman-Fried being paid by the government to suppress Bitcoin at 30,000. I think they're doing a similar thing right now. They do it through wash trading. Very simple, actually. To keep the price of Bitcoin low on exchanges is simple. But that's my theory. I think debt into hard assets is the game.
Exactly. And speaking of more convergence that we kicked the whole story off with, this is big. Today, for the first time ever, people can now trade NVIDIA and Tesla on Kraken.
Wow.
Tokenized to tokens on Sol. And it's not available. Yep. It's not available in the US unless you use a VPN. I'm just doing that right now. but
Let's
it's
not talk
it's
about the
big.
market structure.
This is big. Can you imagine being in a position, Mando, where you got your crypto bros that could like pair trade, say, crypto into AI stocks, and then vice versa, and then the TradFi people come in and start taking their AI stocks and pivoting them into crypto? I mean, what type of crazy world is coming?
Well, I think we're seeing this very, very quickly. So Bybit is doing this, Coinbase is doing this, Kraken is doing this. We haven't seen anything from Binance yet on this, but they will 100% be doing something around this. Robinhood have an announcement today about this too. This is the next big trend. That's what I said at the start. It's like the stock exchanges or the stock platforms and the crypto platforms are merging to become one. And it's just, so you're going to get people who, instead of buying altcoins, they buy these coins. And hopefully you have people who would have bought some random stock and decide to look at altcoins. It's a bit of a mix. Right now, I feel like it's taking away slightly from the longer tail of cryptos. Like, I think this is part of the reason why maybe altcoins have not been as looked at this cycle. If I look down the timeline of my like Twitter feed, it's a lot of people often talking about stocks these days. And I think that's
exactly.
kind of
The narrative
a lot
is
more than
AI.
it ever was on previous cycles. So I think what we're starting to see is the both worlds are they're coming together.
Absolutely. And why are they doing it all in Solana? Anybody?
I mean, I could tell you exactly why they're in Solana. Remember, Solana is the ultimate capital market. Meme coins were just token holders worth nothing. Replace meme coins with actual companies with boards and business plans and profit, which are stocks. Replace them. You get instant capital. You get high-speed trading. You get the fastest, most reliable, most tested network. It's not. I told you, meme coins were a liveness test for this. This is the next thing. It's going to be 100 times bigger than meme coins.
Oh yeah.
The amount of liquidity coming to stock market is just insane.
Yeah. This is from Mert as well. This is, by the way, before this big tokenization of stocks launching. I've been looking at some of the trading volumes as well on this Kraken stuff. You can access it in the US if you have a VPN or anybody in the rest of the world.
Go up 10 times, James. This will go up 10 times in the next year.
But now Solana has just reached all-time high successful transactions, over 80 million a day. This is from Mert, friend of the channel. And this is before they're about to double block space. CTO, can you explain how doubling block space for the audience increases the speed?
Yeah, I mean, coming back to your earlier question, also why you choose Solana, it seems an obvious choice, both from a technology perspective, but also from an adoption perspective, right? You launch something, you want people to start using it.
Yeah.
And the users today are on Solana or Ethereum, and you can't really use Ethereum day one because it's too expensive, too slow. So there's only one choice today, and that is Solana. So that's really impressive. And then I think that what Solana did from the very beginning, and they're still working on it, like in every step, trying to double the block space, but also have like a 1-year plan, a 2-year plan to massively increase the capacity, the latency, or reduce the latency, increase the speed, reduce the cost. So that's their complete focus, and that's the mistake that I feel maybe Ethereum team did. So I'm delighted to see these things. I'm confident that they will be able to keep up with increasing demand, because I do think we will see increasing demands. Now we're getting new applications in, we're getting like stock trading and a lot of other things replacing the meme coin bonanza that we had earlier. So it's really, really great. And it's a bright technology future for Solana ahead. And it's like, why hasn't that been reflected in the price then? It's like the second question there. And it seems a little bit, how should I say, unfair in a way, but that's how markets work. Perhaps people have taken some investment from meme coins into stocks, AI, other reasons. Altcoins as a whole hasn't really performed, so people put it more into Bitcoin and so on. And it always feels like it will never change. There will never be any altcoin season again. Solana will never come back. It starts feeling like that after 1 year of downtrend or something. But
that's exactly when it moves.
Yeah, exactly. And then when it feels like it's hopeless, when the last optimist sells, that's the bottom, and then it shocks everyone by turning around. It's always like that.
Mando, you mentioned Robinhood are doing this as well. Now, are they launching this week? Because I thought, I heard reports of it.
They launched in the last few moments, actually. They're live at the ECC conference. They've gone down the hyperliquid route and decided to do an L3, an Arbitrum Orbit chain for tokenized stocks in Europe. So I think what you're seeing now is like the actual tokenized stocks bit. Generally, they're doing a sandbox outside of the US. It can be US stocks, but they're tokenized often in Europe or sometimes in Asia. But so they're dipping their toe with an Arbitrum L3, it looks like. So that's kind of how Hyperliquid started, and then Hyperliquid is arguably like its own L1 now. So it is it's interesting to see. I do think
that explains the Arbitrum pump right now as well.
Right. That was the reason for Arbitrum's pump over the weekend. And it is an interesting question here, because you're starting to see that mix. So some of them want to be like, right, we actually want to create our own chain. And they may not always be L2s or L3s. They may go down the route of what Hyperliquid did and eventually just convert them into their own L1. And some of them are like, we want to plug into a system. So I think we might see a mix. Obviously, like Coinbase is going to be more of an L2. So is now Robinhood's, and then Bybit, Kraken are going down the Solana route. Binance will be interesting to see if they decide to do it on BNB or not. Which I think would be a big mistake. A big mistake.
Didn't they flirt with that back in 2021, and then they got hammered by regulators? I think they had a test up for a short window of time.
Yeah, they did. And this is not the first time that people have looked into this sort of stuff before. But it's the first time where it feels like there's some regulatory clarity in doing it. So I think, it's going to be interesting to see what Binance do. And then who knows? It will really be if like the big financial institutions of the US decide to do something similar. Like if BlackRock decide to do something, which is a bit more like holistic rather than just we're going to put a fund on chain. Like we are actually going to start tokenizing all these sort of things and have a trading platform for people to use. That will be the interesting next move.
Yeah. And then we have
Guys, FTX had tokenized stock on their exchange in 2020. This is not new. That GameStop, AMC, Tesla, this is not new. So it's been going on for a while.
I think under the kind of regulation.
The question you asked earlier about block size and why does it make the blockchain faster? The best analogy for that is, like I always say, blockchains are like highways. If you have traffic, it's because there's one person in every car, small blocks. To just increase it to buses or trains increases the speed of the blockchain because you carry more people in the same amount of vehicles. So by increasing the block size from holding 2,000 transactions a block to 4,000, you double the capacity of the blockchain. You reduce your congestion, and you lower your fees, and you increase bandwidth and latency, lower latency. So the strongest, most powerful move in a blockchain to get faster is to increase the block size. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. Then the other thing that everybody is always asking, and I know you guys are sick to death of it, but altcoin season, what does it take? My take is pretty simple. It's going to be the Sol ETF. That's now looking very hot on Polymarket to be approved in the next month. Lots of good stuff coming out of there. We have a very kind SEC in the United States now towards crypto. What do you see, Mando, to you first? What do you see triggering an alt season? Does it matter if it's QE or Fed easing or rate cuts or more institutional adoption or tokenization of stocks on blockchains? What is something that will light this spark? We are seeing some moves in some assets as well.
Yeah, I would have said the two things you just highlighted. It'd be the staking ETFs, of which it looks like we may get a staking ETF from a much smaller provider on Solana this week, but then you may see the bigger providers all get them very, very soon. Similarly, ETH, you'll see staking ETFs. So that could be it. And it could be this whole trend of tokenization. Like if you were looking, you cannot have a more bullish headline for use of L1s than what Marty said, which is that we're going to start tokenizing all the other financial assets that are traded and we're going to put them on chain. So if there's a time for an altcoin season, it's got to be now. It's got to be now. But, you know, I mean, I've said for a while, like Bitcoin dominance is just a tough thing to get in the way of. Like, I've just learned to always have a big bag of Bitcoin, so you never feel like you're missing out, and then you just decide what other portion of your portfolio is going to be in altcoins. But yeah, I would if I was to guess at any point over the last few months when an altcoin season would happen, it would be Robinhood, Bybit, Coinbase, and Kraken all launching tokenized stock services in throughout the world. Like, that is one of the most bullish headlines for crypto for L1s you can possibly get. So let's hope it's now.
I think one has to ask the question, man, what is an altcoin? I think the whole notion of what is an altcoin has changed, and I think the man in the street, the average crypto investor, doesn't really even understand the difference between one asset and another. So there's a lack of education. I think altcoins have changed. I think altcoins might be the coins that are not Bitcoin that have been commoditized by the US regulators. And the only ones that have been commoditized are Ethereum, Solana, and XRP. They've all had futures contracts on the CME approved, and they all have ETFs coming out, also just about to be approved. That could be the altcoin season, is those three. The others, you know, people don't really know that Chainlink is an Ethereum token. So Chainlink can't really explode unless Ethereum explodes. So I think you might see an altcoin season where just those few main L1s that carry tokenized stock, stable coins, and all of these things that'll get high adoption through regulation, I think those ones will have a big move. But people will be very disappointed when things like meme coins or other small ecosystem coins don't move, because they've bundled it all together as everything other than Bitcoin. And I think those in the know understand that that's not true. And I think the altcoin season we're going to see is going to be a massive explosion in the L1 tokens that get massive adoption from these regulatory, you know, decisions coming up, which is tokenized stocks, stable coins, and other real world assets. I think that's going to be the altcoin season. And it's pushing back, I think, because of the regulatory, you know, train that's moving through Washington, which is going extremely fast, guys. They worked all weekend. I didn't even work all weekend. So they really want to pass this stuff. They really want to pass market structure so that these things can blow up. And it's a rush. I mean, Trump says it. If we don't do it, China will. I think there's a rush because they know if they don't jump on this and get US stocks trading as tokenized stocks, getting that liquidity flow, that insane amount of capital flow through it globally, they're going to lose out on it. And so there's a lot of push for that. So I think there will be an altcoin season. It'll just be, you know, a couple of main L1 blockchains other than Bitcoin. And then after that, once those have had their move, you'll get sort of a mini altcoin move, which is coins that exist on those networks. In my opinion, that's what's going to happen.
I think that's what we've seen though as well, right? Like the last week, if you look at the biggest gainers in altcoins, it's been random L1s. Like Save was up a massive amount, but also you've seen a decent move higher in Sol had a good week, Hyperliquid had a good week. Some of those L1s have been outperforming Bitcoin. I think even he outperformed Bitcoin this week, right? And certain DeFi coins. So like there's a DeFi coin, Syrup, which is for Maple Finance on ETH, which did do well. Aave's been doing well. So it's like this idea that actually the most bullish thing in crypto right now is TradFi coming to crypto. And I think L1s and those DeFi coins will win.
Yeah. So basically, the core message is we need to wait. Sorry for some background noise. Gardeners have arrived. Early morning Monday is like, no. Anyway, how could they? It's terrible. Let's talk about Zeus real quick because everybody's also concerned, Marty, about your Zeus choice. They feel it's dead, etc. If people are feeling upset about Zeus, tell us, quick update, 60 seconds. Is there hope?
I mean, firstly, I love that people think it's dead. It's just a great chance to buy more. It's at 19 cents right now, which is pretty much, I would say, where it should be. Look, Zeus is an infrastructure play, and people don't, like I just said in the previous talk, people don't really know the difference between, you know, a meme coin and an infrastructure coin, even though they're chalk and cheese 100% different. Infrastructure is something on top of which other things will be built. Okay, Zeus is a layer, and they're just about to introduce, they launched with Zeus layer 1, version 1, which converted Bitcoin into ZBTC on Solana, but it took around 50 to 60 minutes, so it was very slow. You know, it's a very hard thing to do there, to actually integrate Bitcoin, native Bitcoin, into a Solana validator. They call it a validator 1.5. And it was very successful. They had, I think, up to 300 Bitcoin in their test beta. And they're just about to launch version 2, which is going to drop that time in half. So around 20 minutes to create a ZBTC. And then they're also launching their third application, etc. And then the big change will be they're going to open source and launch the ZBTC developer kit. So people will be able to build Bitcoin applications on Solana. So Zeus is building fantastically. I mean, Dean Little and Justin, it's one of the best teams in crypto. But once again, remember,
but the amount they're collateralizing is still tiny, you know. So the wrapped amount or whatever it is. Anyway, we'll see where it goes.
Think because they've done it very slowly to be very rigorous and tested very well, which is what you want to do. This isn't a meme coin. They can't afford any major catastrophes. This is extremely sensitive. So they've done it very slowly, and I respect them for that. Look, you either believe in infrastructure or you don't. Either you believe Bitcoin on Solana or you're not. I mean, at the end of the day, that's the narrative. Just like stocks going to Solana, real-world assets going to Solana, and stablecoins going to Solana, Bitcoin liquidity is going to Solana too. So this is the project to do it. So you either believe it or not. I think there were a lot of coins sounding like Zeus, like the Zeus with a Z. People weren't sure if Zeus was a meme coin. So, you know, it's followed. The chart looks like a typical meme coin chart. But that's fine. That's good for the believers. Anybody that missed the opportunity on Zeus has an opportunity again. And it's up from 13 cents to 19 cents over the weekend. So,
yeah. And a lot of alts are popping actually right now. Let's talk. We're getting close to the end here. And again, I don't know if any noise from the background is coming through. I hope not. Anyway, key events this week. I am very concerned about the job market. All the data I see is obviously very different data from what Jerome Powell is seeing.
Yeah.
The big tech companies in Silicon Valley have stopped hiring. Literally. Small companies have started firing, at least on the tech side. And half of all companies are embracing AI. They're leaning in hard. And they're finding they can do a lot more with less. I don't know what the Jolts will say. I know the BLS is always
tomorrow.
Yes.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, Tuesday. A lot of stuff coming, but this will be a concern, and this could hit the market. That's why we talk about this. But also, it's a double-edged sword, because if jobs go down, that's more fuel for Jerome Powell to cut rates, which means markets go up. So it's a weird calculus. But anyway, enough on that. Unless Mando, CTO, you have any thoughts on the job market and the macro view of the world and Fed rate cuts?
Fed rate cuts, I think, will happen in September. I think there was some indication, not from Jerome Powell, but some of the other people on the Fed board, that they might consider it even in July. But it seems that will not happen. But it looks very odds on that we'll at least get one in September. There was a report last week that Morgan Stanley think they get 6 in 2026. So 6 rate cuts. And obviously Trump is out there every day saying because obviously they're going to replace Jerome Powell next year.
Yeah.
That they're going to replace someone. He wants rates all the way down to 1%. We could have a very aggressive rate cutting cycle next year, and that could be very bullish, kind of across the board. So yeah, I think
if you look at Fed, there's a 5% chance now of a 1.25 rate cut in January. Then if you look at March, there's now a 20% cut of a 1.25 and a 3% cut of a 1.5. So you're 100%. The numbers are agreeing with you, man. It looks like the first 3 months of next year will be considerable rate cuts every month.
Yeah, I think this week is going to be quiet because you have the holiday on Friday. So generally, I wouldn't expect some well, sometimes you get volatile weeks when there's low volume, but I wasn't expecting a big week this week. July, I think you'll just the only thing looking for.
Solana just hit 158. Not sure what happened. Look at the candle on Solana. Carry on.
Yeah. I think L1s are rallying on the back. Hopefully, we're seeing a little bit of L1s rallying here on the back of these sort of headlines around major crypto exchanges and stock apps doing tokenized stocks and commodities.
Yeah, it's definitely long overdue, but
I mean,
I do believe the second half is set up for good times. A little bit on AI and Tesla. This is kind of something that I get confused with. You have a top Chinese manufacturer of cell phones, AI player, and vehicles called Xiaomi praises Tesla, but the West do nothing but attack it. I thought that was super interesting, when the Chinese are praising Elon Musk and everything that's been pulled off. You now have in the United States a car being made in a factory. It drives out of the factory and drives itself to the customer's house. Nobody is there. No human intervention. No driver in the car. I mean, it's a bonkers time to be alive, but people don't appreciate what this company is doing. But it is the most hated asset, and I tend to be in the most hated assets anyway. It's like Solana, Tesla, and stuff. The only thing that's not hated that I'm in is Bitcoin, which used to be very much hated back in the day. It's kind of funny. But speaking of AI,
that headline though, right? Because all of those Chinese EV companies have just copied Tesla. Like they've copied all the bits of a tech. Whenever Tesla puts out a new bit of tech, they've got it like in a few months. And just read his words. We must keep learning.
Exactly. And it's like BYD is a dumpster fire, by the way.
Stealing.
What's the acronym for CCCP? Cut, copy, something, paste, or whatever.
Paste.
Anyway,
copy, paste.
Yeah, but this is what a lot of people also is a big theory. People are rotating the long-term holders out of Bitcoin into the new AI narrative, and I'll be doing a post on this later today. But now, as we kicked off the conversation with, we have now the laggards really bubbling up. We saw Oracle on a record tear. We spoke about that last week. Now people are understanding the importance of memory from Micron, and energy, and Salesforce said half of all work in Salesforce.com right now is done by AI. These are stunning statistics that need to be thought about. But the question I have for you all here is, how are you exposing yourselves real quick to AI? Mando, you first.
Yeah,
just all in on crypto.
Like I bought a decent bag of Tesla during the Trump Elon
spat.
Yeah. So I did have an allocation. I do now have that as like my main stock market allocation. But other than that, I feel like I am happy with crypto being my AI allocation in terms of use of crypto.
Good.
I didn't buy the Nvidia dump. I didn't have the heart to buy it at the lows, and then that stock chart is just crazy. No dips on that reversal back to all-time highs. So
no, that $88 was a gift for sure. I think it's 157 right now. But yeah, well, Marty, what is your AI exposure? Actually, Mando, first, before we move on to Marty, what is your crypto AI exposure? A lot of people talking about Tau. It's been pumped by a whole bunch of pumpers. I never liked the structure of it, but how do you play that from a crypto perspective? Sasha, no.
I mean, I'm super bullish on all this, but whenever I've tried to do forays into this, the coins never really last. Tau is an interesting one, but it's slightly different concept. It's more like a reward mechanism for AI. I don't know how to describe that, but it's like it's going to reward AI for better machine learning, better LLM responses, that sort of stuff. So you have to look at what all the different subnets are doing. That one may be like a sleeper. Like some people are super bullish on it. I've got into it a couple of times and then got out of it at different times. I come back and I go, like, sometimes when you go too specialized in some of these plays, they just don't tend to last. Whereas I just kind of feel like sometimes the L1s are going to be the ones that capture the majority of the gains here. So at times I look at Tau, at times I look at some of the AI agent plays, and at times I've looked at some of like the L1s which are more AI adjacent, like things like Sui has been spoken about for that, and a couple of others like Near. But I never feel that comfortable in holding any of these long term, and whenever I have, I've been punished for it. So
we just had some breaking news. Rex Osprey Solana ETF is with staking. Will go live for trading on Wednesday. That just broke right now. That explains the pop in Solana. And we saw all the institutions making moves and stacking, and Gemini with their institutional staking capability as well. But this is big news. Marty, are you blown away, or?
So that's the
No, I'm not blown away. Solana will be 300 probably in the next few weeks. The way I exposed to AI, and I think a lot of, well, first of all, obviously Tesla is Tesla and NVIDIA. I think those are the picks and shovels of the industry. Those are the two to hold on to. And if you miss those in the beginning, you're going to get a lot of haters. And that's, in Solana as well. People who tend to hate any asset that they didn't get into low and are jealous of people, as they run up, so they get animosity and tribalism. So just ignore that. Hate in investing is normal. What I do is I expose to AIX. I just keep accumulating AIX. That's a global AI and tech ETF, or ARC, Autonomous Technologies ETF, right? I think it's ARC-Q. So you can buy, I always recommend to people, just keep accumulating these ETFs that, they hold NVIDIA, Microsoft, Amazon. They hold them all. They're already doing the hard work of, finding the ones and holding them. So you can just go and buy them in Robinhood. Just go buy $100 a week. The one I do is AIX, Global X Artificial Intelligence and Technology ETF. You can do ARC's one. They all have one. That's the way to do it for me. Or just get a fat Tesla call option for the long duration. Just get a call option till 2028. Bite the bullet, buy it. In my opinion, those are the ways to invest in AI, but you're late. So you're not going to get super early entries into anything new. This, we're so early. AI has already been innovated. I mean, they're just building and iterating on their existing designs. So, you should have got into AI when Tesla was in the 100s and NVIDIA was about to make it a run. So I recommend the ETFs personally. Or just the long call option in NVIDIA and Tesla.
And this is where you and I differ. I wouldn't touch an ETF if my life depended on it. I don't like buying bags of crap. I like to be very surgical. CTO, what do you think about this AI revolution? I know you have Tesla exposure, my friend. You and I did that together.
Yeah. So, obviously NVIDIA, Tesla, and so on. But I agree with what you have been saying here. One thing that I've been thinking a lot about, which I hope will come out of this like tokenization of stocks, that stocks start trading as coins. I hope that we come back to the ability of being able to buy stocks earlier in the cycle. That used to be the case. Now the VCs and so on, they hold on to the stocks longer in private and not doing the IPO until the valuation has gotten much higher, and then they kind of try to dump it on the public. So it's become much harder to get in early. While I think many people here who practiced with crypto projects and so on, we would be able to identify opportunities earlier, and it's just hard to buy them today. And I really hope this comes back, because I don't think the last invention is done. I don't think the last company that will do great things in AI has happened yet. There will keep coming opportunities, and I would love to get in earlier than is possible today. I mean, today, OpenAI is still private and they're gigantic. It's hard to get exposure to it. I wanted to buy XAI super long ago. James, you and I talked about it a very long time ago. And so it's just hard to buy it. Where do you get hold of the thing? I hope this tokenization of the core of the stocks will bring that individuals maybe who are holding stocks as employees or something, they want to sell it to buy a new house or something, and that we get a market, a functioning market for stocks earlier. I would love that.
Exactly. And with the tokenization, by the way, this could be very possible too. We have somebody here saying Solana's roaring again. Breaking news on the show. This Rex Solana ETF is approved for Wednesday. There will be 8 more coming over the coming days and weeks. They typically do them in batches. Yeah, BlackRock, who cares? They're all in on ETH, just like good friend Tom Lee. He wants to build an ETH treasury company.
The ticker is SSK for the Rex Shares Osprey Solana ETF. SSK, go on your Robinhood, see, and just keep refreshing over the next days until you can get in.
SSK.
I recommend getting in early.
Yeah,
yep.
awesome.
SSK.
So we're at the hour. Sorry for any noise in my outside my window here. But quickfire closing round. Literally, it's ironic. I said, is the Sol ETF largely priced in? The answer is hell no, it's not, because Solana has just gone up 2.5%, so up $4. And the other big question is Bitcoin unlikely to decouple from equities in the near term? Is it still considered a risk on asset? Very quick fire round, yes or no. Mando, Bitcoin decoupling, or is it still risk on?
I think it's decoupled. I think what we just saw, sometimes it couples with it for like the very first move and risk off, but I think it's got this safe haven demand when things go wrong. So I would say that Bitcoin's its own thing. Beautifully, it can be coupled and decoupled at like the same time, I would say.
Yeah, and now we have a situation though. It's kind of weird. Bitcoin is down over $1,000 and Solana's raging. We've been talking about Altseason for months. What's going on here, Marty?
We just said.
Yeah,
I think Solana is just highly undervalued and being highly suppressed for accumulation. And I think you're just about to see it go to a $300 price point and blow people's minds. That's all.
Exactly. I love the way you said that. You said that very nonchalantly. I appreciate that. And CTO, we've been waiting for a while. First of all, Bitcoin, is it going to be risk off or is it still tied to risk on assets?
I have a chart.
Yes, we got a chart. Hold on. Where is the chart? Boom. Let's go.
So here is Bitcoin, and the red line is S&P 500 or the ES1 mini futures. So as we see here, it's still kind of correlated. So one goes down, the other one goes down, and vice versa. So right now it's still correlated, but I feel it should decouple. It must decouple because of what we talked about earlier, the whole thing with the bonds and everything. There must be people who feel that, no, wait a minute, which is the safe one now? Is it bonds or is it Bitcoin or gold? You know, those discussions must happen. So I expect more decoupling than we have seen so far. That's my take on that.
Okay, and can you pull up the Solana chart? People want to see it.
Absolutely.
On the daily or on the 1 day chart or 5 minute chart, because everyone's depending on the daily right now.
So the USD chart here has been very tidy. We had the support here at 127. I think, James, you had it at 128. We've been in agreement on this support level since last year, basically. Touched there again. When was it? Just a week, last week, right? And bounced off there. But I think what people have really felt the pain is really this chart. Like, this is the SOL to BTC chart, and it has been down the entire 2025. So this has been the pain that I think a lot of people, including myself, has felt. It has seemed kind of a little bit unfair in some way, and it fell below the support twice, but now we're back above it again. So it's kind of like a rescue mission here. This could be another fake. And on the USD chart, it has held this key support. And
it's heading to 160 right now. So it's up $10 during the show, which is good. And we're not the Solana channel. We are the winning asset channel. I just want to make that very clear for the audience here. A final quick, thank you for that, CTO. A very final quick thought. People are, there's so much conversion happening across so many different assets. They are overwhelmed with choice. We touched on this a couple of weeks ago, But do you guys have 3 sleep well at night assets? Mando, I know one of yours is Bitcoin, the other one's Ethereum, whatever else. What are your 3 things that keep you comfortable so you can sleep and relax at night?
I actually say I only really have one, which is Bitcoin. Ethereum is just my flavor of the period right now, or at least
Your wager with me.
Yeah, exactly. That and some of these DeFi plays. But generally, like the only asset I really feel like I'll always buy on a dip, always, is Bitcoin, right? Always buy that on a dip.
Awesome.
Other than that, I would buy maybe some of the more diversified plays, which Marty was saying, like where you could buy like an index, or you go for like one shot kill like Nvidia or Tesla on any of these sort of big retracements. But if I could own an asset for the next 10 years and feel happy about it, Bitcoin would probably be that, and I don't really know what else.
Yeah. Well, that's good input as well. I just want to very happy. Somewhere people are saying, "Man, did you like fart coin?" Or is that just a?
I own some fart coin.
Yeah, I bought fart coin, my first ever meme, because of you.
Fart coin is doing great. $1.2 billion, my friend.
It's done. Oh, I know. Well, I made a post that I did that, and people thought I was hacked. No, it was this conservative guy doing Parker. Anyway, the CTO, what are your 3 sleep well at night assets right now?
Yeah, I think I'll answer like the meta question. And I think that diversification is a super trick that a lot of people don't really use. From a pure mathematical perspective, if you can find multiple things that do well, over time, that is better. And if it's not moving enough, you can add leverage into it. But if you put all your eggs in one basket, the probability that one day over the next 1, 10, 20 years, you wake up and it's all gone is fairly high. Even the safest thing could experience some black swan event. But the more diversification you have with good assets, the less likely that is going to happen, that they all crash and burn at the same time if they are truly uncorrelated. So for example, buying multiple Solana altcoins won't really do the trick because they're all correlated. But if you can find some AI stocks, you can find some other technology trend stocks, some Bitcoin, some altcoins that actually is in uptrend, some commodities, perhaps with leverage because they don't fake in the same way. You can sleep very well at night because unlikely that all of that is going to go down on the same day. If that happens, the world has probably bigger problems. So, and you too. So that's my trick to sleep well at night. I sleep extremely well every single day of every year because I have this diversification strategy. So no matter what, even Bitcoin, like the probability of it crashing is very low, but not zero. There could be a catastrophic bug. Suddenly someone checked in some code and you could start minting new Bitcoin and no one discovered. It's hard to roll back and so on. So it's like the probability is not zero.
Yeah.
Diversification is my trick to sleep well at night.
Yeah. There's so much happening right now in the market. Everything is pumping. MicroStrategy is nearly at 400. People want Sui updates. And just so you know, I actually murdered Sui in a video about 2 weeks ago. And that's what caused Say to pump by my math. Say was like trading at a 20th of the relative market cap to Sui. It should have done. So that's the reason why Sui's been flat. But I know you're still a Sui bull, Marty. But Say was dramatically undervalued, and it has doubled the daily active users and transactions, etc. Any final words on that? And then give us your 3 sleep well at night assets, and then we wrap. We're running a little bit over the hour.
Sure. Yeah, my allocations are 45% Bitcoin, 34% Solana, and 21% Sui. And I sleep well at night just holding Bitcoin. I mean, that Bitcoin, nearly 50%, I think gives me the most sense of security. I also invest in, obviously, I hold a big bag of Circle and Galaxy, which has had a really nice pump as well. And then I have, a decent size allocation to commodities. I always believe over the next 5 to 10 years, commodities will have a massive run. And so I have a lot of uranium ETFs. I'm looking at thorium and I'm looking at helium-3. So helium-3, if people don't know, Chinese are mining that on the back of the moon right now. That's very little on the Earth, but a small amount of helium-3 can power just a ridiculous amount of power, can power cities. And also it's used for cooling data centers, but then more importantly, blockchains, and more importantly, quantum computers. It's the helium-3 is used to cool quantum computers. Without helium-3, you can't really run a quantum facility.
Yep.
So these are the things I look at. And I also keep a little bit of bank cash, guys. Just, you never know. I think it's always good just to keep a little bit of money in the bank. And I started to move a lot to that, to stablecoin. And I'm doing stablecoin yield to test out for my future. So just on Solana, just doing USDT, USDC pools on Orca Radium, getting around 0.02 to 0.05% a day with zero risk. So these are pretty much my go-tos. But my big bag of Bitcoin, obviously, I've been collecting since the beginning, and that keeps me sleeping well at night.
I want to thank this team here. It's a very special day. We made history at last. But the links are below. If you're watching on my YouTube channel, links are below. RektMando Minutes, read every day. Marty Party, follow him for all the breaking news 24/7 at CTO Larsson website, indicator, etc. It's been a crazy day. We should be more excited. We should be cracking champagne, but we're not. We're very subdued over here. Thank you for that. Sleep well at night assets. The old joke regarding me is I don't get out of bed unless I can make 30%. So I would never invest in an ETF or treasury or yield. Yeah, I don't grab pennies in front of a steamroller because there's so much disruption out there. Like the whole story today is all the options we have at our fingertips. It's freaking insane, and it's a great time to be alive. I want to thank you all. Sorry for running late. I want to wish you both safe travels. It's summertime traveling, but we're going to make this happen. And let me know as well, Marty, if we need to move the windows or Mando as well, or CTO. I know you guys are traveling. I'll always be here Monday. And even if none of you turn up, it'll just be me and everybody else. Over 10,000 people watching. Links below. Thank you all, everybody. Enjoy the week. I am excited.
Thanks so much, guys. Thanks, James, for putting this together. Mando, CTO. Love you guys. See you next week.
Thank you, everyone. Amazing.
Thank you, Mando.
As
Marty,
always.
CTO. Have
Peace
a good
out.
night, guys. Bye.